Hello guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and in this video we are going to be making a couple of Jacobs even taper wedges. And I'm saying Jacobs, it's not actually a Jacobs chuck or a Jacobs taper. This is a B18 taper, but I want to make something to get this chuck off this Morse taper 4 back end. Why am I doing that? Well, for my regulars will know, I've just changed my milling spindle over from Morse taper 4 to ISO 30, so I want to use the chuck and mount it onto a new back end. What are my options? I could make some taper wedges up to do this, which is what I'm about to do. I could make a puller of some description, which would be more work. I could buy some off the internet for 20 something pound, but I fear that when they come they probably wouldn't fit and would need modifying, and I would also, they're quite thin and this is quite a big gap in between here. It's about 10mm gap, so then I'd have to be kind of shimming them out and messing around, so I'd still end up having to make something. So I might as well just crack on and make a couple of simple wedges to do the job. I'm not going to go to town on this. This is going to be rough and ready, just something I need to do the job. I'm not going to make a habit of using these regularly once I've done it. I've got some hot rolled plate that we're going to make them out of. Not the ideal material really, but as I said, you know, these aren't going to be tools in regular use, so I think that will be perfectly okay for the 1 or 2 occasions that I need to use them. So that's what we're going to do. Little picture of what the wedges actually look like. They work in a pair and slide against each other to kind of break the chuck apart if you've not seen them before. And in terms of research, it's worth checking out Mr. Pete. Go and look at his videos. He's done a couple on this whole topic and gone into quite some detail. So with all of that being said, I am going to join you at the milling machine very shortly, and we'll start knocking this bit of plate into shape and we'll crack on with making these 2 taper wedges. Okay, we've got our stock. The first thing I'm going to do is just clean these 2 saw cut edges up to get them parallel, and then we're going to use those to hold on in the vise for the rest of the machining. I don't really care what size we end up at, as long as we take the minimum amount off just to clean up. So we'll drop that in the first side. We've got a 20mm solid carbide end mill, and we're just going to blast across both of those faces to clean them up. I know I said I wasn't going to town, but I wasn't going to clean the other 2 edges up, but one's black from the hot rolling and the other one had been flame burnt, and I can't help myself, so I'm just cleaning those 2 edges up. Okay, we're just going to clean this mill scale off this top surface, and then we need to turn it over and start putting the features in for the wedges. Okay, we need to put 2 holes in here now. I don't have a drill the right size that I can get in the mill, so we're going to go as close as we can, and then we've got an end mill that we'll just follow down with just to size them. So we'll crack on with this now. That's a 16mm solid carbide drill, so it'll have a 4 facet grind on the front, so I'm not bothering spot drilling, we're just going to go straight in. Okay, in my utter excitement to prove this new spindle out and the rack and pinion that I've been recently doing, I've dropped a bit of a clanger and got the holes in the wrong place, but never mind. I think I'm going to offset slightly with this end mill as we open out, and I think they're not going to look pretty, but they'll do the job. So we're just going to follow through with the end mill now. Okay, I think we've probably just about rescued that situation. So the next job is we need to put the taper on. So I'm just going to use my inclinometer. We'll zero out at that, and then I'm going to take my parallels out now, and we're going to come back in and set this up at a 3-degree angle. So 2.9. Actually, I think I need to lift the whole thing up a bit. Making sure I'm squaring the vice jaws, which we are. So we're 3.7. Yeah. It's obviously going to be like the petrol pump, it's not going to let me get it exactly. 3.1 degrees is near enough for what we're doing here. Okay, we're just going to machine the wedge shape into the blank. So off camera we've just done a bit of marking out, so you can see 3 lines on there, 1, a centre line and a third line. That's 3 saw cuts I need to make, and then a bit of deburring, and that's largely the 2 wedges complete. So nice and easy hopefully. So I'll bring you back when we're at the saw. I shall do the outer 2 first, while I've got plenty to hang on to, and then the final cut will be the centre cut through the middle. Now some of you, a bit like me, might be wondering, if you take those 3 saw cuts, how are they going to work like wedges, John? And you'd be absolutely right, because I need to take 5 saw cuts. I didn't mark out the other side on both sides, so I'll do the second cut on the opposite side, same as the one you've just seen. Then I'm going to remark out my other 2 saw cuts that I need to mark, do those 2 next, and then I'll bring you back when we're doing the final parting operation through the centre. It's been one of those days. Okay, let's put these into position. So I need the 2 tapered edges together, which should work against each other, into the chuck like that. If I just bring this up to the camera, they'll stay in place. You'll be able to see, hopefully, that we've got a parallel. Get it on the camera, John. There you go. We've got a parallel wedge now, where those 2 act against each other. So I've never used these before, but it should be as simple as we hold all this lot together on here and give it a couple of taps. We've sustained a bit of collateral damage on the right hand side one, but not to worry, we've got the job done. We've got our B18 taper off, so what I'm going to do now is degrease my new ISO 30 B18 taper, clean the back of the chuck out, make sure that's all degreased, and I'll bring you back when we're fitting those 2 together. Okay, so we're all degreased. We wound our chuck jaws back in so that they're sub flush on the surface. I'm going to drop that onto something nice and solid. We've degreased our taper. So we're going to drop that in there now, and it's as simple as one good hit on the back, and that's those two mating parts together, and they will not come apart unless I use something similar to the same technique that we've just used there. So happy with that. That's got us our keyless chuck now on my ISO 30 back end. That's the start of me transferring my tooling over to my new spindle configuration. Well, there we go guys, a nice simple one this week. Something, again, every time I'm doing something it seems to be something new that I've not done before. So I've never made those before, never used those before. So was it worth making them? Yeah. If I'd have bought, as I said, if I'd have bought a set off the internet, I'd have been waiting, I don't know, a couple of weeks for them to turn up, probably from China, and once they arrived I would still have been faffing around because they wouldn't have been thick enough to bridge that gap. So that took me an hour to knock those out, and the job's done, and I've got those that I can chuck in the drawer should I need to do something similar in the future. I've always got that ability now to be able to split taper, you know, tapers, Jacobs takers apart. So tapers even. So a couple of questions you might be wanting to know the answers to, I'm quite sure. The first one being, why did I stamp left and right on them? Well, two reasons probably. The first reason being, I've got 20 years of shop floor experience, and when you make stupid mistakes in a work environment, like I did on this one by drilling the holes in the wrong place and then having to rectify it, there is always an army of people stood right behind you waiting to take the piss out of you. So you quickly learn to be able to take the same approach to yourself, and it just helps. It's a coping mechanism. I don't have anybody else in here to have a giggle with when I'm working, so you learn to take the mickey out of yourself fairly quickly. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, who knows, long after I've shuffled off this mortal coil and somebody's raking through my gear, they may come across those and go, oh, they're handy, a pair of Jacobs tape wedges, that's just what I need. And then they could spend hours and hours puzzling over why there's a left-hand and a right-hand version. Just all that entertainment for free. So they're the two reasons. Why did I chemically black them is the second question. Very simple. Well, two reasons again really. One, just to try and stop them rusting up, because I'm probably not going to pick them up again for however many years it's going to be. And secondly, to get a good thumbnail. And if you've made it this far into the video, it worked. So on that note, we'll close this episode out. That's moved me a stage further on onto the mill with my ISO 30 spindle tooling, so I'm pleased with that. So thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to the subscribers and new subscribers that have come along, and we'll join you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else.